It's about the restoration of our republic. We want to educate, encourage, enable the power. We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at americasvoicenow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
Good morning, America. You're listening to America's Voice right here, right now. My name is Michael Evans. I'll be your host this morning. As you can hear, I'm getting my voice back. Thank goodness. I want to thank you for joining with us this morning. I appreciate your attendance in our daily projects. You know, those of you who join us on our Facebook streaming or on our website streaming every morning, it's nice to see folks out there every morning. You know, sometimes what we do here is a little frustrating, and sometimes it's a little discouraging. But when I jump out there and I see folks over there in Lincoln and Cameron, and I see folks in Branson and Mountain Home, and I see guys in Clarksville and folks out there in Baltimore, I'm always gratified. I see folks down there in Texas this morning and out there in California. I see folks down in Florida, folks up in Michigan. And it's nice to see that presence. I appreciate it. And it's nice to know that folks are actually actively working and sharing and distributing this stuff. You know, I put a lot of effort and energy into this, and it's gratifying to see somebody cares. If you're listening to us on 99.3, thank you very much. We're grateful to be a part of the 99.3 Big Country Rooster Radio Network. And those guys are going to be doing some great things. I had a discussion with them yesterday. They've got some really cool things planned and some things that we're going to be able to work with them on as we move forward. And some of that stuff is pretty exciting. So I can't reveal any details. I'm sworn to secrecy. But there's some really cool stuff happening there. Also, for the record, by the way, there's a couple of things I want to just bring to your attention. If you folks who are listening here live or capturing this on a podcast or on YouTube or any other place, if you have not yet joined Patriot FB, FB as in Facebook, please do yourself a favor and get over there and do that. There's a couple of things that you want to be aware of that are going on there. One is Patriot FB is like a Facebook, but for patriots. And it's run by a couple of really great guys. And I got to tell you, it's really, it's building by the day. There are multiple radio programs there, including mine, that are playing there. But as an example, J.J. McCartney has Conservative Junction Radio that he runs in the afternoon. And then the Midnight Patriot Show with Jeff is absolutely awesome. So there are places where you can get great sources of news and information. This is one of them. There are a lot of people that contribute and post articles and stories up there. There's a lot of alternative news posted there, much more so than you're going to find on Facebook, because this is a site geared and designed by and for patriots. So instead of having to hunt really hard to find stuff like you would on Facebook, you know, go here and utilize this. Jeff Norton is the purveyor over there, and he's an awesome guy, I got to tell you. And he does the Midnight Patriot Show, which runs from 9 to midnight every day, Central Time. So there is also Patriot Radio. Now, this is really cool. Jeff kicked this off where Patriot Radio is actually a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week radio station. So in between our radio shows like mine and Conservative Junction, J.J. McCartney's show, and Jeff's show, the Midnight Patriot, in between that, they're playing music, and they're playing country music, they're playing classic rock music. And so, I mean, it's a great place to go. If you're a business and you'd like to advertise with Patriot Radio and Patriot Facebook and any of us on all of our shows, whether it be mine or JJ's or Jeff's, please make sure that you contact us. You can reach me real easy. All you got to do is send an email to mike@americasvoicenow.org. That's Mike at americasvoicenow.org. And we can place you on our radio programs. We can place you on our video programming. We can put you on Patriot Radio. There's a lot of people that are moving on and moving into this Patriot Radio movement with us. And I got to tell you, it's a great place for you to build your business, especially if you're in a business that has a demographic that's similar to our listenership. So don't miss out on that opportunity. A couple of other quick points I want to bring out before we get going real deep and heavy here, because we've got a couple of really important issues we're going to talk about this morning. 3% of Americans think immigration is an important issue. And we're going to talk a little bit about that in our first segment, because corporate America is pushing very, very hard. I mean, it is an all-out assault on the sovereignty of the United States of America with this immigration issue. And yet, polls show us that only 3% of Americans think it's important. Where is the dichotomy? Why does that dichotomy exist? Where is that chasm that shows that Americans don't think it's important, but corporate America does? And why does Congress want to make this their 2014 focus? Well, I'll tell you why. Because they've been bought and paid for. Because they've been bought and they've been told, these are your marching orders. And ladies and gentlemen, you cannot find a more obvious example of Congress betraying the needs of America. When Americans think, only 3% of Americans think that immigration is an important issue, how is it that all of Congress's focus is on that? We heard the same thing when Obamacare went through. So draw the correlation. It's the same nonsense over and over and over. The insurance companies pushed very hard for Obamacare. You know why? Because they knew they were going to get a massive bailout at the end of it. And it's the same thing here. We're subjugated and oppressed, and we're forced by police power to do things which are against our nation's best interest by corporate America, who have the lobbyists, the money, the funding, the wherewithal, the resources, and the influence to bend these politicians and wrap them around their fingers. Ladies and gentlemen, that is not Congress's job nor their role. They are not supposed to be acting as a legislative arm of the corporatocracy of America. Our second topic is going to be Missouri's Second Amendment Preservation Act, and it lives. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk deeply about this because it got its second reading in the Assembly yesterday, and I'm going to go into detail with you on this. The Second Amendment Preservation Act, as it's been rewritten, because it was vetoed originally by the governor last year. So we're going to talk a little bit about what the implications are for that, because it's an outstanding bill, and we need your help with witness forms. If you're a Missouri resident, we want your witness forms. I'm going to explain to you what they are and how they work and what you should do to participate. Your witness form actually gets read or placed into the record as a permanent part of the legislative record. And it gives an opportunity to a legislator to walk up and say, ladies and gentlemen, look, this is what my constituents want me to do. Here's a list. Here's a stack of 4, 5, 6, 800 pieces of paper. This is what my citizens are telling me I need to accomplish for them. That gives them an enormous amount of power and authority, because it's not anecdotal data from your secretary who says, well, we got a couple of calls from Mrs. McGillicuddy and Joe Smith. This is documentable empirical proof that the citizens are telling the legislator what to do. So these witness forms are extraordinarily incredible. We're going to talk a little bit about who created that, by the way, because Ron Calzone over at MissouriFirst.org, it's MOFirst.org, is the creator of that system. I got to tell you, I've talked to Ron about this. I'd love to see this thing taken nationwide. Every state should have this. Ron, by the way, is a true American patriot. What an awesome guy. Our third topic, Missouri moves to nullify Obamacare with prejudice. Again, Missouri is leading the nation and is in the forefront of this nullification movement to essentially knock Obamacare out of the game. And I'm going to tell you why this is really important. The beautiful part about this is there is basically the hammer that goes with this is very important. Basically, it states that no law or rule shall compel, directly or indirectly, any person, employer, or healthcare provider to participate in any healthcare system. Ba-boom. What do you mean when you say with prejudice, Michael? Well, that's the cool part. We're going to get into that in a moment. There are teeth to this bill that says the Attorney General has to defend you if the federal government comes against you. And that, ladies and gentlemen, that's what a true state does when they interpose themselves between a bully like the federal government and you, the citizen, who they are created, designed, and built to protect. Our fourth topic, excuse me, I thought I was getting my voice back, but maybe I'm wrong. When you start to use it, maybe I'm wearing it out too quick. Our fourth topic is going to be the nation's largest drug dealer has been completely revealed. Surprise! It's the DEA itself. Ladies and gentlemen, Next News Network has come up with an outstanding report that is going to blow you away. And you're going to be smoking mad when you hear what's going on over here. They've been backing and protecting and acting almost in concert. Not almost, acting in concert with the Sinaloa drug cartel in an effort to provide them an opportunity to be able to, wait until you hear this, folks, smuggle cocaine into the United States through, guess where? Chicago. All right, I'm going to get into our first topic because we don't have we've only got about 10 minutes left, and I already ate up a bunch of that yakking. Before we go there, by the way, make sure that you visit our friends over at Battery Station. You can find them by going to batterystation.com on the web. You can call them at 417-257-7799. Make sure that you tell all of our sponsors you heard about them on America's Voice and that you want to just thank them for their support. I don't care even if you don't buy something. Call these people up and tell them, hey, you know what? I am appreciative of the fact that you're supporting that. I don't care if you're local. If you're not local and you can't go to these sponsors because you're not in our geographic area and they don't have a website, call them up. I give their phone numbers out all the time. Do me a favor, do them a favor, and do yourself a favor. Call them up and say, you know what? I heard about you on America's Voice Now. Mike was talking about your shop or your business, and I just want to thank you for supporting him. I live in Bent Elbow, Wyoming, and I'm really not in a spot where I can come down there and get my hair cut, or I can't come down there and eat at your pizza place. But I got to tell you, I think what you're doing is outstanding. Let them know. It's important to them, and it's important to me, and it's important to you because that's what keeps this show on the air. That's what keeps this show broadcasting on radio stations. So make sure, Battery Station, batterystation.com. You can find them at 303 Washington Avenue, or you can call them at 417-257-7799. 417-257-7799. The Pizza Hut in West Plains, you can find them on Porter Wagoner Boulevard, and they have a great lunch special that you can get to every day. And then on Tuesday night, kids eat free. I think it's below 12. And great opportunity if you take the whole family down there and have a cheap meal. Jason Henry over at Henry Law Offices. He is at number 10 Court Square in West Plains. And great attorney, does criminal, federal, and state criminal work. And also specializes in gun cases. And then also handles personal injury for automobile accidents and other civil work like, some divorces and stuff like that. If you're interested in talking with him and you've got a case that you'd like some advice on, give him a call. Area code 417-256-4100. Big sponsor of our program, strong patriotic American. Make sure that you visit Patriot Cigar and Tobacco Shop. Now, they have everything that you could want for cigars and pipes and tobacco and anything else along that line. All the accessories, lighters, and humidors and all that kind of thing. Make sure that you get in to see those folks. They're at 2 Court Square, and they're at 417-257-1776. What a great phone number, right? 417-257-1776. And then make sure that you can call Sam over there and tell him you appreciate his supporting America's Voice. You can call Jason Whittingham. He's the owner of Wits End Classic Barbershop. And Jason cuts my hair at least, about once every week or 10 days. And what a great place to go. You can also get a hot lather shave there. And you can get, with the old straight razor style and the whole 9 yards. So make sure that you get in to see Wits End Classic Barbershop on the square in West Plains. Okay. There's a Gallup poll. This is in Breitbart, by the way, a Breitbart story. There's a Gallup poll that only 3% of Americans rank immigration reform as a top priority. Now, you got to wonder what is going on when our Congress is making this the premier issue for 2014. I mean, if only 3% of Americans, which is clearly an underwhelming minority, are interested in immigration reform because they're afraid of amnesty for obvious reasons. And quite honestly, they're not interested in immigration reform that's going to give foreigners jobs here. They want jobs for themselves, for their families, for their husbands, their wives, their sons, their daughters, their neighbor, their own townships, their communities, so that we can restore our economy, so that people aren't going bankrupt, so that their business can earn the business of their communities. That's what they want. We don't really care about whether or not we're making it easy for people to penetrate our borders. Why should we? It's our country. It's our national sovereignty. It's our security. Why are we sitting here insisting that immigration be pushed through in Congress? Well, we're not. That's the point. Who is corporate America. They are bound and determined to get this through, not because they've got some altruistic interest in somebody coming over here into the United States and becoming a good American citizen and assimilating into the system. They don't care whether they ever assimilate or not. All corporate America is interested in is one thing: cheap labor. And here's the rub. In order for them to get cheap labor, you have to lose your job. So having massive immigration reform and amnesty is actually going to work against our country. Do you understand? It's going to work against our nation because there's already a shortage of jobs. Adding literally millions, and if their number is accurate and it's 12 million, which I don't believe at all, it's actually closer to 20 or 25 million. And after chain immigration is through, it'll be 50 million. Adding 25 or 15 or 10 million new people to the workforce, when we have 92 million people who can't even get a job now, is the definition of insanity. It's the definition of suicide, economic suicide. Why would we do that? Corporate America is willing to sacrifice you and your family and your job so that they can marginally move and boost their quarterly bottom line. And folks, I think that is beyond unacceptable. In fact, I would posit the concept that is a treason against their own nation. The nation that gave them their start, the nation that provided the talent, the skills that made them great, in spite of the higher labor wage rates that they have to pay here in the United States to American citizens. In other words, if they've gotten to be a megalithic international corporation or a massive national corporation, they did that at the labor rates they pay now. So why is it that suddenly they've got to have lower rates in order to exist? They don't. They just need lower rates in order to boost the bottom line. And quite frankly, if you're going to sell our entire nation out to boost your bottom line 1, 2, 6, 8%, I've got no use for you, because you're a traitor and you're acting in a treasonous manner against the nation that gave you your start, where free markets and enterprise, however skewed the version is that we use, where capitalism, however twisted and melded it is with socialism and Marxism, gave you your beginnings. where our talents and our skills and our labor force were the ones that made you great. But now you're willing to throw that overboard and bring in poison into our system. Poison. So that you can boost your bottom line. I find that reprehensible behavior. And frankly, I think every American, part of the problem, ladies and gentlemen, is this. We've got this consumerism mentality that we can't seem to get away from. Everybody's got to have gadgets and whiz-mos and giz-bangs and all this other nonsense. The truth is, ladies and gentlemen, 80% of what Americans buy, they don't really need. And so I'm suggesting to you that the best solution that you can do is to stop buying this stuff. Put corporate America in its place. Let them know. Identify who they are. It's the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. I think there's 750 megalithic members. There's probably 7,500 total members or something. I've forgotten what the numbers are. It doesn't even matter. The point is, we need to stop corporate America from buying and selling our Congress and using them as an enforcement arm against us to force us into consumerism while simultaneously ripping off our jobs and giving them to people who don't belong here, don't live here, and frankly aren't entitled to anything that we have done that's made this country great. Not when they come in illegally. Not 1 ounce. If you violate the laws, you're not entitled to special privilege. Why is it that under this immigration bill, felons have to commit 3 crimes before they can be charged? But your son, your daughter, your children, you, yourself, only 1. What's up with that? So they break the law, and then we give them exemptions from the law even further. It's insane. It is insane. It is so self-destructive, it is suicidal. And I, for one, have had enough of it. I'm sick of it. I'm tired of it. And you know what? I'm tired of corporations having a stranglehold on our Congress. Our Congress has been bought and sold. When 3% of America says immigration is important, and Congress says 97% of us say it's important, we've got a massive problem. And it proves empirically beyond a shadow of a doubt that your Congress does not represent you. They represent their corporate ownership and their masters. This is why the idea of the pact is so important. Because when congressmen and senators and can no longer take money, bribe money, for re-elections, then lobbying ends. I've had enough with lobbyists. I'm fed up with it, and you should be too. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to tackle our second subject, or our second topic, Missouri's Second Amendment Preservation Act. Folks, don't miss this segment. It's an important one. You're going to be very, very happy when you hear what's going on in Missouri. I'll tell you the story quickly, the litany of what's transpired and how we got where we are right now. But this is the second version of this that's made it forward. The governor vetoed the bill we passed last year, and they've rewritten it to eliminate his concerns and to effectively give us an opportunity to override it if he tries to veto it again. So, all right, we're going to take a break. We'll be back in just a moment. You're listening to America's Voice. Visit us live on the web at americasvoicenow.org. And you can stream this show live there every morning, which is a great opportunity for you and for us. We'll be back in just a minute. Oh, yeah. We're back. You're listening to America's Voice right here, right now. Missouri has a state slogan, which is the Show Me State. And Susan, an avid listener and a fan, who I admire very much because she's got the gumption of and the strength of 10 men. Susan is a person who started listening to our program, I don't know, a couple years ago, and went from being somebody who was sitting at home just kind of worrying and wringing her hands over what was going on to becoming such a vociferous activist that she goes to the school board meetings, she goes to her city council meetings. She's got those people afraid of her and angry at her, which tells me, by the way, she's doing her job right. Because if she's going there and exposing what they're doing and showing how they're doing wrong, and they don't like it because she's exposing it, that's the right thing for her to do. And she's effective. She actually has kind of coined an alternate phrase to Missouri's show me state mentality. She's changed it around a little bit. She says, we'll show you. I love Susan. And here's how we're going to show you. We're going to show you because Missouri is leading the nation in two different areas here. And with the overall, the umbrella of nullification as the primary principle. Last year, we passed the Second Amendment Preservation Act, which basically made it illegal for the federal government to try to limit any firearm issues, including assault weapons, no bans on magazines, no bans on anything, ammunition, how many you can hold, or any other garbage nonsense. The governor vetoed it, and he vetoed it over two issues. The primary one was that there was a First Amendment. There was a clause in there that was a First Amendment violation, according to him. And I've posted an entire article up on America's Voice now about how the governor was wrong. But be that as it may, it was still vetoed. So this session, they've rewritten it, and right now it's called SB 613. SB for Senate Bill 613. And there is a correlating act in the House as well. And it's basically the same bill. Here's the cool part, folks. This thing has got some teeth. And it's very impressive because it covers not just the issue of your right to bear arms, own and possess arms, but basically it says that no federal law relating to firearms really applies here. And to make matters even more abundantly clear to the federal government, the act declares that federal supremacy does not apply to federal laws that restrict or prohibit manufacture, ownership, and use of firearms, accessories, or ammunition within the state because such laws exceed the scope of the federal government's authority. It says that right in the law, folks. Laws necessary for the regulation of the land and the United States Armed Forces are excluded from this type of federal firearm law that exceeds federal authority. So they're talking about military bases as an example, and the military itself. This act also declares the General Assembly strongly promotes responsible gun ownership, and it condemns unlawful transfers of firearms and the use of a firearm or criminal or unlawful activity, of course. But it makes it invalid. It makes invalid all federal law that infringes on the right to bear arms under the Second Amendment of both the U.S. Constitution and the Missouri State Constitution. And it bans certain taxes, registrations, tracking laws, certain prohibitions on the possession, ownership, use, or transfer of a specific type of firearm, and confiscation orders. Wow. Here's the matter. Here's where it really gets interesting. The act declares it is the duty of the court and law enforcement agencies to protect the rights of law-abiding citizens to keep and bear arms. No public officer or state employee has the authority to enforce firearms laws declared invalid by this act. So what they're saying is, not only can the federal government not try to enforce federal gun regulations in the state of Missouri, but no state employee or public officer may act in concert with them to do so either. Any person who acts under the color of law to deprive a Missouri citizen of the rights or privileges ensured by federal and state constitution will be liable for redress. In such an action, here's where the teeth comes. The attorney's fees and the costs may be awarded, and official or qualified immunity shall not be available to the defendant as a defense. Let me tell you why that's important. When you talk about going after government for overreach, the number one thing that you hear over and over and over again is you can't sue these people because they are operating in a professional capacity, in their official capacity, and they have immunity from prosecution, even for acts that are, for all intents and purposes, illegal. I mean, if you did these acts, you'd be in jail for assault, and criminal activity. But the government can do it and has qualified immunity. Well, this says you no longer do. And if you try to seize someone's guns unlawfully, that you don't have qualified immunity to say, hey, I was just doing my job. No. It's also a Class A misdemeanor under the Act for a federal employee to enforce or attempt to enforce a firearm law declared invalid by the Act. State law enforcement officers are provided the power to interpose on behalf of law-abiding citizens. So let's take that scenario a little further. First of all, Class A misdemeanor means they can be charged in a criminal fashion. Secondly, I've heard a lot of people say, well, wait a second, it should be a felony. Stop. I'll tell you why it can't be, or why it doesn't need to be. If they confiscate your firearm and the value of that firearm is over $500, and most firearms are these days, then it's a felony anyway because it's theft during the commission of another crime, the misdemeanor act. You get it? So by committing the crime of the misdemeanor act, they stole your weaponry and now are guilty of a felony because the taking is over $500. Now, more important than that, state law enforcement officers are required to step in and say, stop right there. You federal people don't have any business here. And you may not accost this citizen, nor may you enter their home, nor may you confiscate their property. Ladies and gentlemen, that's teeth. Here's even more cool stuff. Open carry ordinances. You may openly carry, and no township or political subdivision may limit that. Why? Why do we have that in there? Well, because certain liberal communities were saying, you know, the state has open carry, but in our city, in our town, in our village, in our city, you can't. Nonsense. State law is state law. And if it says you can carry open, then you can carry open. And it doesn't matter whether you're in St. Louis or you're in Couch, Missouri. Population 86. Here's an important one. School protection officers. This law states that school districts can designate one or more teachers or administrators as a school protection officer. Now, that authorizes them to carry concealed. This is important because here in Missouri, and right here in my own town, Missouri broke the ground by actually arming teachers. We have a school district here which went to the extent of having their teachers trained. Well, they don't say who. They don't say whether they're teachers or administrators or even janitors. Nobody knows. They kept the names sealed. And they put them through an extensive firearms training course. And they qualified them to carry. And these teachers pack in the schools. The students don't know who it is. No one outside of the most senior administration in the school knows who they are. Even the other teachers don't know. How cool is that? So this law says not only, and you know, that took like a certain act that they had to do. So this is basically saying we can expand that program statewide. It's an outstanding concept. And there are limitations on it. So, you know, you liberal pukes out there, you're not going to run around and start screaming bloody murder. Every teacher's going to be shooting up their student classrooms. Here's another important aspect of this bill. Warrants. This is got teeth, ladies and gentlemen, and I am very, very proud of the Missouri Assembly for putting this together. And by the way, this bill was originally sponsored. This was by Funderbunk. He was the original creator of the first Second Amendment Preservation Act, which was defeated. He's done a bang-up job on this. You know, politicians are like puppies. When they do the right thing, you reward them and you pat their head and you tell them how good they are. When they do the wrong thing, you rub their nose in it and smack them with a newspaper or a video. Warrants. This act provides that before serving a warrant issued by a United States court, the federal agent must be accompanied by the sheriff or his or her designee of the county where the warrant is to be served. So there'll be no more of this federal agencies kicking in your door and the sheriff finds out about it later. If you're going to issue a warrant in the state of Missouri, the federal government must go to that sheriff and say, you either have to accompany us or you have to designate a deputy to accompany us to protect the rights of the people where we're going with this warrant. A state law enforcement officer must also be accompanied by a sheriff or a designee when serving a warrant. So if it's going to be the state police or the Missouri Drug Enforcement Interdiction Group or whatever they call themselves, the same thing has to apply. The sheriff's office must be involved in the serving of warrants. Ladies and gentlemen, the sheriff is our most important and highest law enforcement officer in every county. So it is extraordinarily important and critical that the sheriff's office be involved, which leads me to the next point. This year, in this election, if the sheriff in your county is up for election, make sure he is a constitutional, conservative, patriotic sheriff. No limp-wristed, weak-kneed, wind-driven, blown by, whichever way the wind blows, people need to be in office in the sheriff's departments in this state. It is time for this state to be and follow the conservative roots that it has. Every sheriff should be triple vetted and triple qualified to make sure that they will do the right thing because they're giving them under this bill an extraordinary amount of power. And that power has to be used when it should be used. See, in this case, I'm not afraid of a sheriff who abuses it. I'm afraid of a sheriff who won't exercise it. I'm afraid of a sheriff who won't interpose when he should. Now, there is a section in here where federal and state law enforcement can file a petition with the circuit judge in the county where the warrant's going to be served for a waiver from that policy if they say that the sheriff has a conflict of interest. In other words, if it's going to be his nephew or his son and daughter or something along those lines. And I suppose you got to have something like that. And then it goes on to say, the sheriff must protect the rights of anyone directly affected by the warrant and, moreover, must make a report of the incident. And it is a Class A misdemeanor to fail to serve a warrant without the accompaniment of a sheriff. Boom. The provisions of this section regarding federal warrants, and it states it becomes effective in August of this year. It also states, I'm telling you, I love this bill. Healthcare professionals and firearms. This is a direct impact and implication from the Obamacare Act that says that your doctor has to dig into your personal firearms possession status, right? This act specifies that no licensed healthcare professional may be required by law to ask a patient whether he or she owns a firearm, document firearm ownership in any patient medical record, or notify any government entity of the identity of a patient based solely on the patient's status as a firearm owner. Ladies and gentlemen, That's exactly the kind of thing that the nation should be instituting on a national basis. There's a thing in here also that lowers the concealed carry age to 19 instead of 21. And why are they doing that? Well, because if we can send a 19-year-old kid over to Afghanistan and put a fully automatic M4 in his hand and tell him to go out there and kill people on behalf of the United States of America, then the least we can do is when he comes home, not bar him from having a concealed carry permit. Hello? Also, and it addresses the issue of illegal aliens. It says here that if a person commits the offense of unlawful possession of a person does commit the offense of unlawful possession of a firearm if the person is illegally in the United States. So in other words, if you're an illegal alien and you have a firearm, you're automatically in under illegal possession because you don't have the authority, the standing, the constitutional standing, and the citizenship standing to possess a firearm in the state of Missouri because you're not an illegal alien. You're not a legal alien. Okay, here's the deal. Let me tell you, the whole bill, by the way, is like 60 pages long. I was reading you the highlights there, obviously. That's 33 pages, my apology. And this is downloadable, and I can give links to those who want it. All right, here's the important aspect of this. Ron Calzone has a website out there which is called MoFirst. Now, MoFirst.org, by the way. And here's why I want you to be aware of this and know exactly what the deal is with MoFirst and Ron Calzone, for that matter. He is a guy who has put together this website where your comments and your input is submitted to the state legislature through the process of what's called a witness form. Now, if you've been listening to America's Voice for a long time, you already know that this is your duty and your obligation. And so I want you to be aware of what your roles are. When you go there, you can create your own little profile. And every time there's a bill that comes up, you get an email that says, we need your witness form for this bill or that bill, and either for or against. And here's the important part. Your testimony, which is now in writing, is submitted, and it's submitted actually into the state legislative record so that no one can deny what the citizens had to say. There's no anecdotal evidence. It's empirical. There's no, a question of whether or not the citizens supported it or in what shape and way and form or how strongly. It's all right there in the record. That's exactly, ladies and gentlemen, what we need in this country. I tell you what, I'm so impressed with Ron and what his program has done. I've actually asked him if there's a way to take that system and make it, repeatable in every state. Because the folks in Oregon, the folks in Illinois, the people in Texas, the people in Kentucky would benefit from a system like this. Now, he's told me very clearly that it's not an easy thing to do, and it would require, a pretty significant effort by every state to incorporate this because it's very highly customized for that given state, in other words, right? But the point of all of this is simply this. MoFirst.org is where you go to fill out your witness form. Once you've created your little personal profile in there, every time a bill comes up, whether you're for or against, you have a right and an opportunity to go in there and put your comments in. And it keeps a record of them so that you can go in and see what you had said about a bill a year ago or whatever the case may be. And it pre-fills out your form so you don't have to go in there and fill it out every time. All you got to do is go in there and note your comment. and then hit the submit button, and it's all done for you. You don't have to fax anything. You don't have to mail anything. I'm telling you, Ron he's a genius. He's a genius. And not only that, but the guy is a great patriot. What I really like about this is that it makes citizen legislators out of every one of us. But you have to use it. And if you don't use it, I don't ever want to hear a complaint that says, well, they don't listen to what I say. They don't listen to what you say because you're not taking advantage of the tools that are available to you. It's not just a telephone, and it's not just an email keyboard. This is something more important than that because it goes right into the record, the legislative record. It's inserted as part of the bill. Do you get it? It is the most impacting way that you can affect legislation. Because even if your congressman or your state senator or your House representative member ignores your emails and your phone calls, and we all know how many of them do, they cannot ignore the input in your witness form. They can't ignore it. It's on the record. I can't express to you how important a tool this is because you can't get anything more impressive than that. I want you to go to mofirst.org. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to throw something out here to those folks that are not Missouri residents because this show gets picked up nationally, of course. And, there's people who are saying, well, that doesn't really apply to me because I don't live in Missouri, so maybe I'll turn it off. Stop. Because we're going to talk about Missouri in the next segment, too. Tell you why you should stop. You should be contacting mofirst.org and saying, what can I do to get this system in my state? What can I do to be a Ron Calzone in my state? Now you're an activist. Do something like this that puts teeth and power and authority to the people instead of to these bureaucrats. It's extremely, extremely and vitally important. And so if you're not a Missouri resident, don't make the mistake of thinking, well, I don't have to deal with this, or it doesn't apply to me. It does apply to you. I'm giving you a perfect tool here. Now, Ron's probably going to be mad at me because he's going to get phone calls from 50 states saying, well, how do I do this? Sorry, Ron. But I'm so impressed with this system. And as a guy who develops, websites and software for a living, it's a complicated system. I'm not denying that. But if we can do it here, you can do it there. I'm telling you that this is probably one of the most important tools that we the people, and I'm going to say something else. At some point in time, this whole thing is going to come to a head. And when it does, if we do take this nation back and put it on a constitutional track again, this is the kind of tool that will make it happen and keep it all organized and recorded. So it's not just a tool for today. It's a tool that will be part of the new makeup of the new constitutional republic of the United States of America. Whatever phoenix of freedom arises from the ashes of the tyranny that we've got going around us right now. Okay. We're going to take a break. We have to. It's a hard break. Because this is radio and commercials have to get played because radio is free, but only if you listen to the commercials. Make sure that you're supporting our sponsors. I'm going to give their names out again right after the break because I didn't leave myself enough time. I got too carried away. And I'd like you to contact them and support them, patronize them. And even if you can't patronize them, call them up and say, I am so grateful that you support America's Voice Now. I just wanted you to know I'm too far away to deal with you, to do business with you, but I wanted you to know that I appreciate what you're doing and that you're taking a stalwart stand for liberty and freedom in America. That would be a nice gesture on your part, and I'm sure they would appreciate it, even if they can't get business out of you. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. You're listening to America's Voice Now.
It's about the restoration of our republic. We
Yes,
want
it
to
is.
educate, encourage, enable the power. We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at americasvoicenow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
All right. Good morning, America. You're listening to America's Voice right now, right here. And we're getting some work done. You can join us every day by visiting our website at americasvoicenow.org. You can also go to .com, by the way, both work. We want to, I want to make a point here real quickly, by the way, before we get too far gone. Tomorrow, there is going to be the Ozark Self-Reliant Living University preparation seminars held tomorrow. Now, that's going to be held at the Senior Center in Thayer. As soon as I find it here, I'm going to give you some information about it, including a phone number where you can call if you've got questions or you need directions or something like that. The project is actually a really interesting one because Mike Slack, who runs that Ozark Self-Reliant Living University program, he does this as a voluntary thing. There's no fee to get in. It's totally free. Lunch is available, by the way, because it's an all-day event. It runs from 9 a.m. until, I think, 5 or 6 o'clock. And lunch is there, and it's $4, guys. $4. I mean, you know, you can go to McDonald's and get yourself a heart attack, and you can't get it that cheap. There'll be drinks and desserts and all that kind of thing. And you'll have an opportunity to meet with, you know, the people who are doing the speaking, and they have some of those speakers will have a table there with some products on it and things like that. It's a disaster preparedness seminar. It is tomorrow, Saturday, January 18th. I'll be speaking there. It's at the Thayer Senior Center. It's called the Disaster Preparedness Seminar. And if you need directions or you need information or you want to just register, you can call 417-264-2435. That's 417-264-2435. Now, for the record, if you would like Mike to do one of these in your community, he can probably arrange to do that for you. It may take a little bit of, you know, juxtapositioning, but and you'd have to pay him to go out there and organize it for you. But if you don't live here, you can't attend this one, but you'd like to see something like this done in your community, give Mike a call, 417-264-2435, and say, Mike, would you come out here and create run the OSLU out here? The important part is that there are people that are coming here to talk about all kinds of issues. And it doesn't matter whether, you know, this disaster is government-sponsored or natural. Whether it's an earthquake, a tornado, a storm, a terrorist attack, or, you know, Obama made. The OSLU was basically created by Mike and his wife, Deb. Deb, rest her soul, recently passed away in August. And Mike is continuing on with the program. Now, these instructors who are going to be there, Brian Haas from Ozark Mountain Self-Reliance, and we built the website for him. You can go visit that. It's ozarksurvivalgear.com. That's ozarksurvivalgear.com. If you need a website, by the way, give me a shout at Mike at americasvoicenow.org, and I'll be happy to talk to you about one for your business. He's going to be talking about prepping 101 and what you need to put in a bug-out bag, and he's got, you know, all the materials there, of course. John Price, who is a good friend of mine, he's also a pastor. He'll be talking about what you need to do to learn about ham radio and radio communication and how you can obtain a ham radio license. He runs free classes to sponsor people to get a license in ham radio. And even if you don't want the license, but you just want to understand how ham radio works and how to use it in the event of an emergency, John's the guy for that. He's a great American patriot, by the way, and a really nice man. Dave Lohr from the Kosh Trading Post is going to be there, and he's going to demonstrate survival techniques in primitive conditions. So he's going to be teaching you how to make your own bow and arrows. I want to see this one. It's going to teach you how to make your own bow and arrows and how to trap small game and survive without a shelter. Basically, just primitive survival skills, right? Wayne Simmons, an Oregon County ambulance paramedic, is going to be talking about what to do when no doctor is available. And it doesn't matter, by the way, whether or not you're on a camping trip or you're stranded on the side of the road or you've had an automobile accident and no help is immediately available. What do you do in an emergency like that? I mean, who better to tell us than a guy who's a paramedic, right? He shows up and he sees all these kinds of situations. An automobile accident where the guy's been sitting there for 15 minutes waiting for an ambulance and he's bleeding. How do you stop the bleeding? What do you do? What kind of small first aid kit should you have with you at all times, even in your own car, so that you can do that? I'll be there and there's another guy who's going to be, there was a late guest and it's not on this link and I apologize, and I've forgotten what he's talking about. But I'll be there as well, and I'll be talking about a couple of different things, including choosing the right firearm for home and self-defense and preparedness. No, I don't own any for the NSA listening, but because I'm a felon. But I do have a lot of knowledge because I used to run a gun store, and I'm a gunsmith, or at least I was. And so the upshot is I can really purvey a lot of information to you. In fact, one of these days I ought to actually do a video about that. But all right, so make sure that you are attending that. If you want to call Mike and you want to attend this seminar, you need information, or if you want to hold one, 417-264-2435. His name is Michael Slack, S-L-A-C-K, like slack in a rope. Not like slackard. He's no slackard. 417-264-2435. By the way, for the record, Mike has an outstanding resume service he runs. If you need a resume written, man, he does a phenomenal job. And he specializes in military, for the record. 417-264-2435. Call Mike, whether you want to do the resume thing or you just need information about this program. Okay. Before we get any further, make sure that you visit our friends over at Battery Station, 417-257-7799, batterystation.com. Friends at Pizza Hut on Porter Wagoner Boulevard in West Plains. They have a lunch special every day. It's an open buffet, and you got pizza and salad bar and a pasta bar and a bunch of other stuff. Great people over there, and a lot of our fans and listeners go there on a routine basis, almost every day for lunch. So, and on Tuesday night, family night. Kids under 12 eat free. Make sure that you see Jason Henry over at the law offices of Jason Henry at number 10 Court Square in West Plains, 417-256-4100. He does federal and state criminal cases, including specialty and firearms cases, and he also does, DUIs and drug cases and stuff like that. Does personal injury cases for automobile stuff, and then he also handles some civil cases like, divorces and custody and stuff like that. He's a go-getter and a hard-working attorney, and he's a guy that I trust. He's done work for me. So I don't say that very much. I don't say that about very many attorneys. 417-256-4100. I like Jason. He's a good man. Patriot Cigar and Tobacco Shop, 417-257-1776. 417-257-1776. Cigars, pipes, tobacco, and every accessory known to man that you could want for that type of product. And then Wits End Classic Barbershop, our friends over there. Jason cuts my hair about every 10 days or so. Does a great job. Good young man. Real strong patriot. And a friend. So, okay, let's touch on this other issue, which is our second topic for this morning, and that is Missouri again is in the forefront in a new plan to erase Obamacare. There's a second bill that's been submitted by Senator John Lampling. Now, this bill is Lamping, excuse me. There's no L in there. It's just John Lamping. And this bill is legislated in State SB 546. Now, here's, again, Missouri is on the leadership end of this nullification movement. And they're not calling it a nullification bill, but it is. It basically says this: no law or rule shall compel, directly or indirectly, any person, employer, or healthcare provider to participate in any healthcare system. And it doesn't specify state or national, so it covers the gamut. Here's an even more important aspect to this. There's teeth to these bills. See, a bill that's passed that doesn't have teeth is no bill at all. If there's no penalty for violating it, then why pass it? So Missouri is, again, in a leadership role. And by the way, they work extensively with the 10th Amendment Center. And if you're not a 10ther and you don't know what the 10th Amendment Center is, I encourage you to go to their website. It's 10thamendmentcenter.com. Spelled out, T-E-N-T-H, 10thamendmentcenter.com. They have model legislation. So if you're not in Missouri, go get this legislation and change the name to your state and get it in there. Go to your state assembly, go to your state senator, your state representative, and say, look, I'm not asking you, I'm telling you, we need this. Let's get it done. What do I got to do to help you? Make them sponsor it, co-sponsor it, whatever. 10th Amendment Center is leading the nation in nullification. This states that in the event that the federal government attempts to crack down on you in violation of this law that gives you a get out of healthcare free card, here's what's really important, guys. Here's the teeth. The Attorney General shall take such action as is provided in this subsection in the defense or the prosecution of rights protected under this section. It is the duty of the Attorney General to seek injunctive or any other appropriate relief as expeditiously as possible to preserve the rights and the property of the residents of the state of Missouri. Boom! Why do I say that? Okay. Understand how important this phrase is, because it is the phrase. It's not saying that in the event the federal government comes down on you, you get a chance to fight them in court at your own cost and expense. Because, let's be honest, how many of us have $50,000 to take the federal government to court? None of us. And 50, by the way, is only the retainer fee. Here's the deal. When your state is interposing itself between you and the bully, the state has an obligation to do the right thing. And that is to not just interpose itself and say, stop that, but also to say, you got to come through me to get to him. Now, I want you to draw this analogy and this mental picture in your mind. You're 8. You're standing there on the street, and here comes the bully. You're on your way to school, and here comes the bully that every day harasses you, smacks you in the back of the head, pulls your hair, takes your lunch money, steals your lunch, knocks your books out of your hand, pushes you around, knocks you to the ground, gives you a couple of kicks, taunts you, teases you, right? You hate this kid. You're frustrated. And here he comes. And you're just dreading inside because he's 16 and he's built. There's nothing you can do. You're 8. You're a kid. And this young buck is abusing you. And here he comes, and your heart sinks. And the fear just comes up and wells up inside you. And suddenly, between you and the bully, steps in a 20-year-old man. And he says, stop right there. Not today. And the bully says, get out of my way, I'll do what I want. And your protector, your interposer says, not today, you won't. To get to him, you got to go through me. That is the role our states are playing. That is the role that they are required under our system of government to play. The Attorney General must fight this battle on your behalf. That's why I said boom. the Attorney General has to file court documents on your behalf. He must act as your bully protector. He must act as your interposer. And he's obligated. So it doesn't matter what his ideological slant is. In our state right now, we have an attorney general who sides with the governor, who's a Democrat. The governor is extraordinarily liberal in the state of Missouri. Our attorney general is his sidekick, his Eric Holder to President Obama. 2 peas in a pod. The truth is, this says it doesn't matter what your ideological slant is. You are obligated and required by law to protect the rights of the citizens, and that you must file and seek injunctive relief to protect them and their rights and the property as expeditiously as possible. See, this is how the states will take back the 10th Amendment sovereignty that puts them in charge of the federal government. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was the original intent of our founders. The states, in the original instance, the colonies, they were the creator of the federal government, which was designed and meant to serve them in a capacity where it could act on behalf of all 13 in a simultaneous fashion. And it was delegated with certain limited power and authority to accomplish that task. However, the states have been bribed with federal money to have slowly but surely given up those and to abandon and, quite frankly, abdicate their ability and authority under the 10th Amendment. It is imperative that every state, all 50, restore their standing as the boss of the federal government in every area in which that authority was not delegated. What were the delegated and enumerated authorities given to the federal government? Well, Border Patrol is one, right? Because the goal was, listen, we got all these states that got borders, so rather than, every state having to defend their own individual border, let's have the federal government do it as a general rule that applies to all. Has the federal government been derelict in its duty? Of course. Another area that the federal government was given authority was to coin the money and build roads and run a post office, right? Because those areas were outside the scope of an individual state. What if the road needed to run through 3 states? So the object was that in those areas where it was beneficial to the individual states to delegate this limited authority to the federal government, they did so. But ultimately, all other rights were reserved to them. Now, they've abdicated that responsibility through malfeasance, bribery, scandal, abuse, coercion, co-option. I mean, the list is endless. I can come up with a million adjectives. The point is this. Our state sovereignty is directly related to your individual sovereignty, because your state can act as a buffer zone and a bully protector by blocking the federal government from abusing you on an individualized basis. They've got to go through that 20-year-old to get to you, the skinny little 8-year-old who's being tortured and abused. Why did I draw the analogy that the federal government was a 16-year-old bully, but the protector was a 20-year-old strapping young man? Well, I'll tell you why. Because the federal government is subservient in age and you've heard the term respect your elders. The state is the elder to the federal government. I drew that analogy that way for a reason. The state is the elder of the federal government and has authority over the federal government, not only by age, but by force. Your state's power exceeds that of the federal government in every area except those limited 26 delegated authorities that were given to the federal government. I'm proud that Missouri has submitted this bill. I'm proud that Missouri has submitted the Second Amendment Preservation Act. Why? Because it's putting the state back up on its position as the elder. It's putting the state back in its position as the authority and saying, we're going to stand between you and our citizens. We're going to protect them. And we're not saying that it's optional to protect them. We're saying that every time going forward, that 20-year-old is going to walk this 8-year-old to school to make sure that that bully can't get at him when no one's looking. That, ladies and gentlemen, is important. You see, this thing takes the teeth out of the Obamacare mandate. It says you cannot go to our employers and penalize them for having more than 50 employees. It says you cannot go there and take money away from our citizens. It says you cannot charge them a fine or a tax or a fee or any other word that you want to use for refusing to participate in this unconstitutional program. The concept is sound, and we should be employing it everywhere. Not just on Second Amendment rights and health care rights, anti-NDAA, same thing. Missouri's working on one of those too. Anti-Agenda 21, pushing the EPA back. You know, if you're familiar with our efforts right now on the riverways, we're trying to get the federal government to turn the scenic riverways, a federally designated park, back to the state of Missouri and tell them, you know what, take all your highfalutin ideas and your $150,000 a year jobs that you're billing us for and get out of here. When I tell you that story about the riverways and what those people make, it's unbelievable. Especially in this area where the average person here is making 20, 30, 35, 40,000 bucks a year. These people are making 110, 120. And then they get a 12% bonus stipend for being in a low-income area. You got to be kidding me. What is that, a culture bribe? All right. We're going to take a break. When we come back, I'm going to talk to you about a very important issue. And that is, it's now revealed who the #1 largest drug dealer and distributor of cocaine is in the United States. And guess what? It's the DEA. Yes, the Drug Enforcement Agency. The largest cocaine dealer in the country and in the world is our own DEA. All right. For the record, by the way, if you're planning the Speaker of the House in Missouri, if you're listening locally, the Speaker of the House is going to be at the Fish Shack in West Plains today from 11 till noon. I will be going there because I want to hear what he has to say and I want to have my input. I'm usually quite vocal. No, not me, right? And I'm going to be going over there to hear what they have to say. They're going to outline the legislative agenda for the year. So this is an important opportunity for us to hear what our Speaker of the House has planned, and it's Tim Jones. And so if you can make that, it's going to be held this morning at the Fish Shack at 11 till noon. And so if there's a chance for you to get there, that's right in West Plains on Porter Wagoner Boulevard. And make sure that you show up there if there's any way that you can. Okay. What was I going to talk about? The DEA, the largest drug dealer in the United States of America. No, not the largest drug stopper, the largest drug dealer. Did you hear what I said? How traitorous is that? Well, it ain't them alone, by the way. The DEA, and for the record, if you haven't, if you don't recall, about a year and a half ago, I did an entire expose on how the DEA had laundered money on behalf of the cartels in the tune of, I think it was $400 billion, if I'm remembering the number now. It was either 400 or $420 billion. Laundered it on behalf of the cartels. Because the way they operate in the DEA is they cut deals with these cartels. And it's like the mafia. Well, we'll offer you protection, but you got to give us the other guys. So they cut a deal with the Sinaloa cartel. They offer the Sinaloa cartel protection and avenues of importation into the United States through Chicago, where 80% of all the cocaine comes in. I'm going to play you a story from Next News Network in a minute, by the way. Outstanding organization. And here's the kicker. The way that this operates is the DEA cuts a deal with the Sinaloa drug cartel, and they give the Sinaloa cartel free access to the American marketplace in exchange for information on how they can go bust the other cartels. You got to be kidding me. So you're going to make a deal with the devil so that, and the deal with the devil is that he's going to let you bust his kids as long as you let him have free reign in the world. Something sounds wrong with that theory. I mean, how traitorous. While you're out there spouting about how drugs are ruining our country and drug enforcement, and you're utilizing that as an excuse to incarcerate millions of Americans, to steal our civil and our human liberties and our freedoms, to impose unbelievable surveillance techniques and the most heinous, oppressive nonsense. And simultaneously, when our backs are turned, you're helping the people that you're decrying as the criminals. To me, that is inconceivable. If that's what government stands for, it's no wonder there's a certain group of people that want to be anarchists. Because anarchy is no different. You know what anarchy is? Thugocracy. Thug rule. True anarchy, I'm talking about. No government, right? Not economic anarchy. The truth is, this is reprehensible behavior on a level which cannot be tolerated by a society that considers the rule of law to be the foundational principle on which it operates. When I say that, I'm saying if the entity itself that is responsible for the rule of law, the creators of it, the overseers of it, the enforcers of the rule of law, are themselves greater criminals than those people that they're going after, then we don't have a rule of law. It's a conflict of interest. And it's a conflict of interest, ladies and gentlemen, that is on a national scale, on a moral scale, on an ethical scale, on a constitutional scale. It's unforgivable. It's inconceivable. And frankly, I'm so frustrated about the whole darn thing, I could scream. And where's the national media on this? Silent. Crickets is all you hear. Where are they? Why is it Next News Network, which is a fine organization, I mean an outstanding group. Next News Network, by the way, is and go to their website. It's Next News Network. It's either .org or .com. I don't know. I have it saved, but Next News Network, NEXT News Network, like NNN. This group is a 24-hour Patriot news channel. I'm jealous. I'm jealous. They do not in a I want to compete against them way that I couldn't have accomplished it. I love what they do. And if you're not following them as an alternative media source, you are missing the boat, and in a big way. I want you to watch this video. It's only about 2.5 minutes long. And listen to the report that comes out of here, because this is an important video, and it's an important report. By the way, he also interviewed, I saw on their news report this morning, Michael Bolton from the 10th Amendment Center about nullification, and they specifically mentioned these cases in Missouri. So what I'm going to do is find that for you. I can't find it for you in today's session, but Monday I'll see if I can't get that and play it for you. But this is an important program, and I want you to be aware of it because it's so critically important to our success as a nation. This is
Has the nation's largest cocaine smuggler been revealed to be the Drug Enforcement Agency? Well, for decades, it's been rumored that the United States government was secretly sponsoring the smuggling of cocaine into the country. Federal officials have long denied such speculation, pointing out the billions of dollars spent intercepting drugs. Newly released documents and testimony from Justice Department and DEA officials now show the stories of government running cocaine are in fact true. An investigation conducted in Mexico found the American government allowed that country's largest drug cartel, Sinaloa, to operate without fear of persecution. That group is estimated to be responsible for 80% of the cocaine coming into the United States through Chicago. In exchange, the leaders of Sinaloa provided the Drug Enforcement Agency in Washington, D.C. information on their rival gangs. The drug cartel working with the federal government is run by Joaquin El Capo Guzman. He is considered to be the world's most powerful drug trafficker. And in addition to Chicago, his group also maintains cocaine operations in several major cities around the nation. Written statements were provided to a U.S. district court in Chicago confirming the alliance between the DEA and Mexico's largest cocaine cartel. The written testimony, combined with other evidence, shows the Drug Enforcement Agency officials met with leaders of the Sinaloa cartel more than 50 times between 2000 and 2012. This would mean DEA-authorized drug smuggling goes back to at least the beginning of the George W. Bush administration and continued for a year under Barack Obama. One of the group's leaders, Vicente Zambada, claims that the American government also sent military-grade weapons to the Sinaloa cartel. According to the latest revelations, it was these weapons which were part of the Fast and Furious scandal. Automatic firearms, which disappeared during that operation, led by Eric Holder, were used to kill U.S. border agents. This latest evidence and testimony points towards a massive scandal involving both Republican and Democratic administrations. At the very best, this provides the best evidence so far that the federal government was sponsoring the smuggling of billions of dollars of cocaine into the United States. Worse still, weapons purchased for the United States military have been sent to the cartel and used to kill American agents. Those actions transcend any party politics, and the jury's still out. We'll follow the story and bring you the latest.
What an amazing statement. I got to tell you guys, Next News Network is an awesome network. If you are not following them as one of the primary alternative media sources, you are really, truly missing the boat. Do yourself a favor and get over there. It's Next News Network. When we're talking about 50 meetings between DEA and a cartel directly, understand the implications of that, folks. I mean, we're talking about the heads of the Drug Enforcement Agency meeting directly with the primary suspects of the largest drug smuggling and drug manufacturing organization on the planet and colluding together, assisting. Look, this is aiding and abetting the enemy. It is treason, defined. The DEA is guilty of treason, aiding and abetting an active, openly engaged enemy of the United States of America under Bush and Obama. Lest anyone couch this as a partisan argument, there's no partisan argument here. Both these presidents have betrayed us, our nation, by this behavior. Well, the presidents didn't have the meeting with the cartel. Stop right there. They are the captains of the ship, and I will not accept, nor will I tolerate this. Well, I didn't know anything about it. That is an inexcusable argument to be made. And we've had enough of that with Obama. Well, I read about it in the papers like everybody else. Really? Then why do we need you as a president at all? Yesterday, Alex Newman from the New American put out an article. I'll give you a link to this in the body of the comment section, or the description section. The Obama administration backed Mexican troops opened fire on a group of civilians who sought to keep their weapons for self-defense and rein in ruthless government-linked drug cartels, which have terrorized their communities in the state of, I don't know how you pronounce it, Michoacan. The attack sparked an international outcry on behalf of the citizens. Really? Where is Fox News? Where's Communist News Network? Where's MSLSD? Where's ABC, CBS, NBC? Where's the New York Times? Where's the Wall Street Journal? Why is the New American publishing this, but we're not hearing about it? Why isn't this on every news channel 4, 5, 8, 10 times a day? You're telling me that the Obama administration has backed Mexican troops, given them weaponry, which have opened fire on a group of civilians within their own nation who were simply and merely trying to defend themselves against the drug cartels that they are in concert with, and we are in concert with, because they wanted to try to defend themselves against these drug cartels who are beheading their families, their children, their sons, and their daughters? Mexico is a failed narco state. For our government to back those troops, for our government and our news media to ignore that, is tantamount to a crime against humanity. These news reports, which are conflicting, of course, because everybody's trying to keep it quiet, around a dozen people were shot and 4 were killed, including an 11-year-old girl. There was a Mexican paper that actually reported 11 people were killed. A dozen people were killed in the clash. The Mexican forces opened fire on an unarmed crowd. Really? This isn't Egypt or Libya. This is a nation that borders ours. Community leaders quoted in press reports said the government was trying to protect the cartels. Authorities claimed they not to know exactly how many people had been killed in the clashes, which began on January 13th. Now, here we are on January 17th, 4 days later. What are you hearing about this in the news? A group of unarmed citizens, unarmed civilians, tried to stop a convoy of heavily armed government functionaries from entering the town of Antunez and disarming their residents. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a precursor, the prequel to what you will see occurring here in the United States. That's a bold prediction. Not so bold, actually. It just depends on where you are in the awakening process. But listen to this. These were unarmed citizens, and they tried to put up a blockade to stop the government from coming into this town and disarming the residents. And the reason the residents are arming themselves is because the cartels are coming in there and torturing and murdering and beheading their citizens. And instead of going in there and sending in a cohort to protect the town, they sent a cohort in there to disarm them. This is exactly the proof of the statement that we just heard from Next News Network. The United States is operating in league, is operating not as an enabler, but as a partner. And there is a significant difference there. It's one thing if government and an agency like the DEA, who's tasked with accomplishing a job, ignores their duty. It's bad, but that's one. You know, that's malfeasance, right? That's reckless behavior. It's a completely different story when that agency, the DEA, is not ignoring their job and their duty and their obligation, but is actively cooperating, assisting, aiding, and abetting the self-same organizations they have been created to stop. That is treason. It is aiding and abetting the enemy. And there is nothing that you can say. There is nothing that anyone can argue. There is no rationale that can be presented that changes that fact. Ladies and gentlemen, if this doesn't give you the understanding that we are not operating as a lawful government at this point, but are basically what we have become is a thugocracy. This is Chicago-style politics, gangland politics at its best. And it's not limited, by the way, to Obama. That's not why I'm calling it gangland and Chicago style. Bush was just as deeply implicated in this as Obama. The CIA is implicated in this. The NSA. Because if they're capturing all of this data, they know what's going on. This is a crime of planetary proportion, people. Planetary. This isn't some oversight, a little mistake, the consequence of a rogue agent. This is a planned, executed military mission to cooperatively assist the enemy's sworn enemy of the United States of America, of the people of America. And to make matters worse, That would be bad enough. But to knowingly, willfully, intentionally commit treason and then take that treasonous action and the results of it and use it as an excuse to turn around and use that to steal the rights, the liberties, the freedoms, the money, the privacy, and violate the Bill of Rights against the actual citizens which you have committed the initial treason against. People, that is satanic in a biblical sense. That's not reprehensible behavior. That's revolution behavior. That's behavior that is so far beyond what our founders put up with when they signed a Declaration of Independence, that this is the kind of behavior that quantifies, clarifies, and defines what they used as their reasoning for throwing a violent revolution. Am I advocating a violent one? No. So don't even go there with me. Don't come and try to knock on my door and prosecute me for that. I'm telling you, America, it is time for this nation to have a revolution of integrity, of honor, of lawfulness, not lawlessness. I'm telling you that it is time for a revolution of morals and ethics. No, not morals in some individual's skewed mind that force everybody else to do their bidding. Just the basic morals that say we don't hurt other people. We don't steal from our own citizens. We don't oppress and abuse our own citizens. Take all your liberal arguments about whether we ought to have gay marriage and all of that stuff, and whether there should be, free food stamps given out. I don't care about any of that. I'm talking about morals on a whole different level here. Ladies and gentlemen, if this does not give you every motivational understanding, every principled justification for a revolution to restore and replace every member of Congress, every member of every state assembly, every member of the executive, to repeal and destroy the vast majority of every administrative agency that exists, with only two exceptions, Border Patrol and Commerce. Those are the only two constitutionally authorized. And if this does not give you the authority, the rationale, and the justification to strip the entire federal judiciary, including the SCOTUS, remove every federal judge, and replace every single one, nothing does. You may as well go back to sleep and wait for them to click the handcuffs on and awaken you at the point of a gun. You've been listening to America's Voice Now. You can find us on the web at americasvoicenow.org. Facebook.com/America's Voice Now. Please hit the like button. Also, our Spreaker application at Spreaker.com/user/America's Voice Now. Please hit the like button on that too. We're trying to get to 100 users. When we get to 100 users, we can get on iTunes and iHeartRadio. It'll dramatically open up our listenership. Find us at PatriotFB.com and find other radio hosts at PatriotFB.com. Get off Facebook, or at least join Patriot FB and wean yourself off Facebook, where you can listen to my program, including other great radio hosts as well. Okay, it's time for the weekend. Have a nice one. We'll see you Monday.